Welcome to our podcast, an episode on Atlassian Data Residency. Betty Holly,
Yes.
we will explore some of the important and crucial concept of where your Atlassian data is stored. So looking forward to our time together to really look at what this is all about. And so welcome to the podcast, and hopefully things are all well in your end.
Definitely. Thank you, Hala. It's good to be with you again, talking about another great topic, especially for our customers who are using Vensa. More importantly as well, the Atlassian customer base that exists in the world out there, spread across all around different geographic locations. I think exciting thing about it is Atlassian Data Residency is definitely growing. It's beyond just the Jira product space and Confluence, but also the marketplace app. So I think we have a lot to talk about today, and
Yeah, absolutely.
go into this, and talk further. Yeah.
Look, we will be looking at what does Atlassian Data Residency is all about, and what does it mean for customers. We'll also look at the marketplace apps and the role of customers as well. And hopefully we'll get a chance to go through a use case of data residency and look at how Vensa fits into the whole data pinning, data migration, real pinning, and all these terminologies that are obviously available for Jira customers, Betty. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, look, we probably just got to not forget that it's not just Jira customers, but Atlassian products, specifically Jira
Yes.
service, and Confluence and so forth. So we have the same concept, but across the different products there. In our examples, and what we'll probably best talk about is focusing on Jira, commonly focusing on Jira and Jira Cloud. So absolutely, it's something that's very important. So let's get into it. I think it's pretty good. The agenda for our discussion is very clear, 3 points. So kick off from there.
Exactly. Look, Betty, what does Atlassian Data Residency mean? Let's talk about the pinning side of things, the migration. So there's quite a bit to go through. We'll start to think about compliance, what it's all mean around pinning, the isolation of data, and what does it really mean to business and customers.
Yes.
And then obviously we'll talk a little bit more about Vensa or apps that needs to migrate their data to be compliant. So
Yeah, look,
compliance.
yeah, definitely. You hit the word, you hit the nail on the head, as I say. But data residency is really not a term specifically for Atlassian. It's a commonly used reference to where customers' data resides, right? Specifically, the geographic location, and let's say a data center. So wherever the customer data resides, this is what we're referring to as data residency.
The physical or the geographical
Yeah,
locations, right? Yeah.
whatever it may be, any specific customer data, that'll be personal data, data to do with the business, or any organizational application data, wherever that data resides, that's the reference of data residency. And how customers can be compliant with, with where their data resides is to understand the systems and products that they're using, how they define data residency, how they support data residency. And so that this is where Atlassian comes in from probably around since 2021, the data residency support has basically kicked off for Atlassian products.
That's right.
And so that's what we're here to talk about, is that what does it mean? It's really just where your customer personal data information resides. And so Jira refers to the realms as really just defining, the geographic locations. So if we're talking the different realms that Jira supports, you have starting off with, the US, and
Australia.
there's AW, but they started off with US and EU specifically, and defining from an AWS regions, which is where Atlassian products are hosted and run off. But they're using the US East or US West Coast areas and EU, being in
Mm.
Germany, Dublin, Ireland, Frankfurt, all these different regions are realms that customers
Yeah.
can be aware of. So this is really all that data residency really means. And obviously on the slide here, it's all about focusing on compliance, and there are specific customers that this is quite critical, that their data
It is. It is.
is there. It helps organizations stay compliant, and their data residency meets specific regulations that different industries, businesses will need to abide by. So that's really a customer driven thing. But also, having that residency close point, being as close as possible to your location, is also important for customers that are about performance. So
Yes.
we're talking compliance, we're talking ensuring that you meet those specific regulations and keeping data onshore, as they say. But it's also potentially a big improvement on the performance. So some customers, a Jira customers example, could experience some performance issues if they're saying, defaulting to a US region, but they're based in Australia. So that's another benefit of having that data residency support there.
Yeah, look, absolutely. You've called it out, Ferdy, about compliance, about security, about performance. Can you just elaborate a little bit more and talk around the pinning and around that whole concept
Definitely.
of realm pinning? Yep.
Yeah. So the realm is, as I said before, it's the location where customers, their in-scope data, let that be Jira issues, the headlines, the information that's quite important to the customer, attachments, anything that is, that's quite important data is in that geographic location that we just spoke about. The pinning is about where, by default, which we'll go through in detail, where the customer has defined their location where data should be pinned to. So that just literally means when you go into your Atlassian product, let's say Jira, and you go into the data residency section, you choose where data should be pinned to. By default, it could be global. So Jira has can move your data across different regions. Or if you choose to pin your location to, say, the US realm, it means that now that defines that all your data is now stored in that location. So that's really important to define that understanding that once you pin your Jira, your data, it now resides in that location.
It's hosted in that geographical location. Yep.
Yeah, correct. So you really need to ensure that the data, in order to be able to take advantage of data residency, you first are aware of the definition of pinning, and that pinning is really the first thing that you need to start off with to start utilizing data residency. So you define if you need to pin, you need to look at what specific regions are supported, and choose to pin to one of those regions. So, for example,
but it's just something that just sort of a good reminder is that I know I often talk with customers or come across conversations with customers where they're not really thinking about where the Atlassian product is being pinned to. I mean, what's your experience around that? And it's not until you sort of go through the conversation with them and they realize the importance.
Look, I probably not too much about not knowing where their Jira data is pinned to. I mean, customers may know that they've pinned now. They've look. Firstly, we must explain that the data residency features of Atlassian are only available for standard licenses or premium license customers.
Yes.
It's not available on the free version. So if you're using the free version of Jira, you need to upgrade in order to pin or relocate or migrate your data. But most customers are aware when their specific regulations are required of them to keep their data, or their policies require their data to reside in EU or AU, wherever they may be.
Particular region. Yep.
And so they're aware of it. But what we've come across is customers haven't realized that any apps that they're using inside the particular product they haven't looked into sort of understand their definition of, do they support data? Does that app support data residency?
Yeah.
Does it support the location that they're in? So they could be using apps and thinking that those apps would automatically be within the
Defaulted.
same location, defaulted, whatever they're pinned to. So that's unfortunate, right? So it is obviously only recent that Atlassian is starting to allow apps to take advantage of the data residency support, so customers can choose to either install or relocate it, so move their data to the same location. So all that we'll go through in detail. But yes, it's quite important.
Absolutely. Well, look, I think it's the right time to to move on to that in terms of what is the role for marketplace apps and customers in sort of carrying out their due diligence, right?
Yeah. So look, that's a good. Yeah. Before we jump into that, I guess I wanted to close off on the key point is, so talking about Jira here. So any product really, but when you pin your Jira product to a location that's available, it's supported, which we'll showcase in a second, whether there's different locations, what they may be.
Yeah.
You also have the option to move that product if you ever needed to. So think of your Jira data now being pinned to the US region, and for whatever reason you wanted to change the location, you literally you sort of change the default location to another region, and the data is scheduled to now move the data across to the new region.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that, Freddy, around that whole process, right? There is a process with moving and planning for that.
That's right. The process is there, the scheduling of it, the downtime that exists at the time when you've defined when that data, when your location should be moved. You'll be notified. Atlassian then sort of sends you notifications that, look, the time for when we're now relocating your data region scheduled is kicked off. So there will be some outage there for that time frame.
Yep.
And then once it's available, it sort of kicks off and it triggers. So that all happens, as per process that you've defined. But in terms of the next steps in terms of marketplace apps, what is the role for marketplace apps and customers? Correct. Absolutely critical. So marketplace apps, if you're a vendor that has built an app for the Atlassian marketplace, let's say Jira, these native apps for Jira need to be aware that there are some changes that they need to make to support data residency. So from policies that you need to update to define what exact regions you as an app vendor support, making that available to customers to know that, does your app support data residency? Yes, no. Which regions do you support? What sort of data do you capture? Do you sort of what sort of data resides in the regions? But also more important, you take advantage of allowing for customers to choose to relocate data as well. So if you have customers that are already using the app, and now that you've made the features available in your app to support Atlassian
to be eligible for data residency, that's correct.
Yeah, you need to obviously now allow customers to migrate. So that's quite a complex piece for app partners, is because you're not only taking the first instance of an installation. If a customer is pinned to a Jira to a region, a realm, you're not having to just support that first installation and defaulting that customer to their pinned location if you support that location, right? So just looking at a use case here, let's say a customer has pinned their Jira workspace to the EU region, and they've installed the app. The app supports data residency. Then what it should do is it instantly support that customer, install that customer's workspace product, the workspace room location. All right, does it make sense? So it should allow that by default.
That's right. So essentially, by default, when an app is installed, it should inherit that
the default
pinned location by default.
Pinned location.
That's
But at the
correct.
same time, if you now if that app has existing customers and they've been using the default single work supported region that app
Yes.
supports, right? Let it be the US as an example. If customer now wants to migrate their data, they should have the option where they're allowed to migrate their data from the US to their pinned location. And that's the tricky part, right? That's the complex piece. So you really the responsibility of the app partner is to ensure that real migration, data migration is supported, and it's in line with Atlassian's process. So then obviously, there's a process where you would call the app to let them know that the customer wants to move the data. The data is now triggered to be moved in the downtime again. But it's not, so this time we're not moving the customer's Jira product data to a new region. It's moving the app itself. And so we'll cover that in a second in detail. From a customer's perspective, it's very important that they're aware of their data requirements in terms of where it should reside. They should be aware of apps, reading up their privacy tab inside the app to see where does the app store the data. Does it support the regions that they're looking to support, right? All this is the ownership on the customer.
Responsibility. That's right. To do the due diligence. Exactly.
Yeah, the due diligence to ensure. So they should be aware of this, this critical information of where the data resides and the locations that is supported, so that they can be compliant on that perspective.
Fede, can I just jump in there? I think it's as simple as a customer will just go in to verify. I think it's in the data and privacy tab in the marketplace for people just to have a first point of reference, right? Just a quick check, make sure that they're where their app data is pinned to.
Yeah. So all app partners, the vendor that's the owner of the app, needs to declare this information as part of registering a product on the marketplace and making that information available. That's a requirement. So the questions that need to be answered by the app partner are specific to data residency. We'll ask questions around, what sort of regions you support, where's the data stored, what kind of data. The customer is responsible for ensuring that meets their requirements. And if it does, it can be seen as a green light to kick off, right? But typically, we have seen customers that have said they were not aware that the apps that they're using are not supporting the same data residency key locations. Yeah. And I think this is important. Why I think we should be talking about this is because just because it's a native app and you've installed it in your Atlassian product, it doesn't mean that it's instantly that app is now maintained. It does. Sometimes the majority, there's a lot of apps that are not really using anything other than basic information that's stored within Jira itself directly. And that may be instantly compliant. The data residency would mean that it would just work as seamlessly as you would expect, where just that nothing is sent outside of Jira. But most feature-rich products that have a lot of great features to provide that value for why you'd install the app would require some data to be stored in that app's database, and that database would not be typically in the same region. And it's only because Atlassian hasn't it's still in basically in a mature. It's in a mature beta release now, where Atlassian has released support for apps to now take advantage of having the same regions, right, as Jira, and that keeping that and having the ability to know the app knows where the customer's data is pinned to, so it can support that same process, right?
Fede, I was going to say, I think it's an important call that you've shared there in terms of Atlassian marketplace apps. They've got that mature beta release to support data residency. And obviously from an Atlassian perspective, from a roadmap perspective, that's going to continue to grow and obviously extend their reach. But it is available for marketplace.
And it's not compulsory that app partners are supporting data residency and ensuring that, but they're obviously now declaring it. And if they're going to support it, I guess some of those
Well, and I
apps
think it
that
comes
have,
back.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, and I think it comes back to to our opening statement around the each organization, or I suppose, or institution, they have the ownership and the accountability to do their due diligence and look at, explore, and review their data requirements, regulations, and etc. and
Definitely,
whatnot.
definitely, yes.
So the responsibility falls back onto in organizations and
Yes.
institutions that really require to be compliant with their local data
Yeah,
regulations.
yeah. Specifically government bodies and,
Mm,
financial institutions, not-for-profits. I mean, many different organizations would have a critical requirement that it
a
must
requirement,
reside.
exactly.
So it's not about just looking. I guess the summarize this. It's not about just looking at Atlassian data policies in data residency policies around what and abiding and complying with that. It's also
Mm,
knowing that all the apps that you're installing,
yes,
how are they complying at the
yeah.
same level?
Because I
What
can tell
support
you,
they have?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Look, I've seen in many instances and hear conversations varying around the various teams and organizations are downloading apps, to your point earlier on, just
Hmm.
for value that they need it for their specific needs, but not
Yes,
necessarily think about their data requirements.
yes, yeah,
And
correct.
it's not until an afterthought where they actually review that and realize that they actually need to comply. And so I think
Correct.
we've spoken about that quite clearly in terms of the role of customers and marketplace apps. So I think this will
Yeah,
give us a springboard as well. Sorry, Ved, you want to say something before we move on?
yeah. Well, look, I was just saying is that Jira over the last few years has been really increasing the locations they support, making the
Mm,
now. So if you look, we'll go through that and see how many different regions. So it's really growing, and I mean, it started off with US, EU, then it's built onto I think Canada and AU. Australia is in, a few years back, and it was quite a big hype around, finally giving
yes.
that that sort of customers more choice around, the support they can
Yeah.
have with data residency. And then recently it's sort of now pushed out the beta release for data residency to be also extended to marketplace apps. So all these apps that are sort of storing data outside of Jira's regions are now catching up and implementing the features, and that sort of
Yes.
opens up the conversation around Vensa now.
Yeah. Look, absolutely. I was just going to say before we jump onto a real use case now with
Yeah.
Vensa, are also Atlassian partners. They're really spreading the I suppose the news and the information around whole data residency. There's a whole heap of Atlassian partners who are really at the forefront of sharing and talking about the importance of data residency, which brings
I
us to
think
our next.
Yeah, I think the difference, I guess, there's app partners, as in the dev partners that are building apps, and support partners for customers that are using Atlassian product suite. So yeah, absolutely, the different service support partners that are
Correct.
available, they're definitely big on ensuring customers are aware how to migrate and how to sort of ensure that they're complying with data residency, the type of apps to support. But obviously, it's big, and
Yep.
it's very important. It's something that's sort of really growing now from a marketplace
Yeah.
apps perspective.
And to your point, it's only going to be a matter. It's a matter of time.
Yeah,
Fabio,
I think it's a matter of time, and I think it's great that we sort of talk about time, because right now Vansa has said that the time is important, and the team have spent, honestly, I think 6 months
yes.
not necessarily building the support for data residency from a pinning. Like if you customers that would come first off and install Vansa for the first time, that has been fairly straightforward, and it has taken a fair bit of,
Mm,
obviously implementation to address all that default location and customers pinned location, and the sort of improving the infrastructure there to support and scale
yep.
up and all that sort of stuff. So we from Vansa side, we've looked at the pinning for the first time and installing Vensa into the right location. That went live a couple of weeks, 4 weeks ago, and now we support the EU, US, UK, Germany, and Australia as locations, and we can showcase that in a second how you can see that information. But more importantly, we have our customers that are based in the EU or let's say in Australia now, that by default had to have their data in the US region, because Vensa was defaulted from like all other apps, then had the default location without being data residency supporting
Correct.
data residency. But now we had to consider that how to allow customers to move their data. So that has been quite complex, because you got to think of this is that we now have to take all of data that we store in that region and migrate it into their pinned region that we support.
Yes.
So that's quite a lengthy exercise that we need to get right. And great news is it is right. It's working, yes. And so customers now have a choice to move data, right? So that
not just that, happy customers, should I mention?
Yeah, because obviously some customers weren't aware, unfortunately, that their data was in the US when they thought it was in let's say Australia. And we had to obviously educate them on that. Look, the information is there. It's been, but you probably didn't missed it. But look, they've moved now. They're moving, and we have customers that are now scheduling that move. So for the good news is, I think where Vansa is looking at, it's seeing itself as at the forefront at this side of things, in terms of not just trying to support all of Atlassian's regions, but also ensuring that it's also the data relocation is available at their request. So that's been the case, and I think maybe we can just sort of help our customers get a bit of a feel of where they can find.
Absolutely.
And we'll go through that. So I believe it's a good time to maybe showcase and share some of our screens. Okay, so you can see my screen there now, Hala?
That's correct.
All right, great. So what I'm using is just a Jira workspace here that for demonstration purposes, to talk about where you can actually find your data residency, where it's sort of the information is available. So if I usually go to billing. In there, you sort of loads a tab, but the other way you can do it is if you just at the top here, just go to admin. That will open up the admin.atlassian.com for your product, and sort of then go to security. When you click on security, then you should be able to see data residency on the left-hand side.
Right.
So clicking on data residency is where Jira will tell you, firstly, where your current product is actually pinned to. So this pinned location is that green status is what you're looking for. It's first to highlight to you that your Jira product, which is available here, we only have one product, is currently status is pinned, and which location is pinned to. So you can actually click on view details here. And so at the moment here, if you want to sort of see what other locations are available, if you click on change location, and we'll go through this in a second in terms of how to move your product, your Jira product, from a pinned location to another pinned location.
Another one.
Yeah, or if it's not pinned, it would then be the same process, but what you're doing is changing it from the default global region to a region you want to pin to. But what I want to sort of showcase here is that under the data residency tab, each product that you, in your Atlassian ecosystem here, is that which product you're using, where if it's pinned, and the status of the app, and the location. And you can click on view details, and it will go through and tell you a little bit more information of the location and so forth. But what it does also showcase is, are there any apps that you've installed that are supporting the region? So if you've installed any apps, in this case, we've installed Vansah Test Management for Jira, it will showcase that, yes, it is also pinned. So if the app is not eligible, like the app does not support data residency, or does not even support, it may support data residency, but doesn't support your location, it will appear here defining which apps do not support that region. So in this app, in our Vensa Test Management for Jira app, it tells you here that it's pinned and it's the same region, the European Union region, EU region, and it also lets you know what other regions it supports. So currently it supports the EU, Germany, Australia, UK, and USA. So this is currently what Vensa supports from an Atlassian regions perspective. If you're looking at moving your Jira workspace to another region, again, simply click on change location. Here's where you need to select the location. This is just telling you the process to go through. You select the move window, you review the apps, and review and submit that request.
Yeah, so it's quite simple and straightforward, right?
Well, look, it's meant to be as simple as possible. It's very much a 4-step process, but I think it's easier if we click onto that. So if let's say right now it's telling you, look, your Vensa Atlassian, this is called Vensa Jira testing, but your Jira workspace is pinned to the EU region. You want to move it to a new region, select the location. Let's just say we want to now move it to Australia, and we click next. It now will ask you what time do you want to move it, and so forth. If you have a specific, not have a specific time, just within the next 48 hours, you can choose the recommended approach. If you want to move it within the next 24 hours and choose that window time frame, you can sort of go through, say, look, I want it to move on this particular date, and also this particular time, because you have to realize is that once you move your Jira and pin it to a new location, that time that you choose to move it, that's when it will be out of action. So if you sort of think that like a Sunday or a Saturday is not really a busy time for your users, then probably choose it. If you're not really concerned, we can just say, look, within the next 48 hours, Jira, you'll be notified, and sort of then you go from there. So let's just say for the next 48 hours, we've seen that it does do it quite quickly, even though it says next 48 hours. They click next. And here's where it's going to tell you, okay, the apps that you've installed, is it eligible? Are they eligible to also be moved? Yes. Because it says, yes, look, one eligible app can move only after this move is complete. So first it's telling you, look, it's all good. You've chosen to move to the Australia region, and this app, which you have, Vansah Test Management for Jira, also supports it. So we're also going to move it for you. But any apps that do not support that will come up here as not eligible. So it's just telling you that they'll remain in that region, which is the default region that app only supports. Yeah. Okay. So if we now click next, and it will just tell you some more information about, look, confirming it, submit the request. As soon as we click submit, that's it. Now you see that it's telling you, look, the move has been scheduled. It's going from EU to Australia. Once it's complete, you basically will see that your Jira product will now say, instead of EU, it will say Australia for the Jira product here. But it's also telling you, look, good news. Here's your apps. This is Vensa Test Management for Jira. It's eligible, as I said before, but that move will occur after it's currently moved Jira. So after it moves Jira, it will then trigger that move from there. How does that sound, Hala? Right. You like it?
Look, it's fantastic. And I mean, this is what, customers and users are really excited about. The fact that data residency is now a big part of the Atlassian product suites, core products.
Yes.
And just the ability to, for Atlassian to have their beta program, a mature beta program for marketplace apps, to also be part of the journey. And as we said at the top of the call, it comes down to organizations and institutions being compliant from a security perspective, from a compliance and performance perspective. That's really the key business drivers for organizations, is really ensuring that from a privacy and a regulatory point of view, that they are compliant. And so it's really exciting to also see the fact that Vensa is eligible. for customers who are currently using Vensa,
Yes.
and knowing that they can also pin their Vensa to their desired or their target or their required pin location or realm. And it's exciting. It's exciting time, because what this means is that it's another capability that organizations will tick and satisfy. So great news.
Definitely. No, look, absolutely. And like, it's obviously a critical part for many customers to start treating, data and residency. Um, it's the same way. Like what I'm trying to say is that customers need to do their due diligence in terms of choosing which apps they want to work with now, because if data residency is important for their business, then don't stop at just Jira and defining that Jira is now resides in that. If you're going to be using apps, in which there are a lot of apps out there that customers have been using for some time now,
Yes.
how can they be sure that the apps support the regions that they reside in? And more important, how can they be sure that the data can relocate, can be migrated to
Yeah.
the region that they're going to pin to? So a few things there that is really important for customers to start considering, because it's
Correct.
not just about, yes, it supports it today, but does it support relocating the data? So
Yes.
look, it's pretty much, it's exciting times, as you said, Hala. And really for Vansa, I think I'll just sort of a quick wrap up is that we're going to be supporting all of Atlassian's regions soon. For now, it's as we say here, it's the EU, Germany, Australia, UK, and USA, but we're soon to be adding Japan, and I think Canada is coming
Yeah.
up. There'll be more, but if some customers are looking to use a trial or start using Vansa as a test management app for Jira, and they're looking at considering using it only if it supports one of the regions that they're pinned to that is currently not supported by Vansa, they can simply make a request, and that request is very much fairly straightforward for us now.
Correct.
Where we are rolling out more regions, but if a customer really wants to get on to using Vansa, but the region isn't supported today, they can simply make a request by going to Vansa's data policy and sort of submitting a request to say, can we have one of our regions available? We'll look at doing that, because the plan is for Vensa to take on all Atlassian regions. So thank you for your time, Hala. I really appreciate this quick podcast.
Yeah, look, it's been great. It's been great, Fede, and thank you for your time as well. I think you've done a brilliant job in articulating some of the fundamentals around the whole Atlassian data residency, but also extending that into the roles and responsibilities, and I suppose the ownership of marketplace apps partners equally with customers. So it was really exciting to have your insights as well, and looking forward to more happier customers, knowing that they can sleep at night and with their data intact to
absolutely.
the compliances and
Look, I
etc.
must send a big special thanks to the team at TestPoint, and who've come in and really helped test Vansa as a product, to give us that assurance that we needed to really ensure that whole data relocation is happening for customers if they're choosing to relocate Vansa data to the region. So it's been quite a complex piece, the scheduling, but also a big special thank you to the Vensa dev team who've worked tirelessly,
Oh,
tremendously,
absolutely.
worked tremendously hard, I should say, over the last 6 months to take on this data residency very seriously, because it's been quite an important part of our roadmap. We took on the data residency challenge, as I say, to ensure that it was going to be available. I think we missed the target initially. We wanted it around March, but it wasn't too far off that. So it was only in early April that we sort of we finally were confident that the whole data residency support is now available. And
Yeah.
as soon as we had it available, we had some customers instantly trigger it, because once they trigger it, we were notified. So I think the team led by Vivek, who's been very much instrumental in terms of understanding Atlassian's data residency app support, in terms of making the whole data residency available for apps to take it on, and sort of had to then implement that. So he's done that really, really well. He was meant to come in today and sort of be part of this podcast, but he had some technical issues that he wasn't able to get to this meeting. But all in all, thank you, Hala, and your team, and looking forward to more great stuff on the roadmap that we can talk about.
Look, it's been tremendous, and I know, mate, you're too humble, Fetty, but you have been instrumental in architecting all these capabilities. And look, I know that we can go and name names with the whole team, but I think all in all, a massive congratulations to the Vensa team for their hard work and to get this over the line. And it essentially means you've got customers who are absolutely confident that their data is in good hands. So looking forward to our next conversation, Vetty, and appreciate all the insights and sharing tonight.
Yeah, and if anyone has any questions about our data residency policy and details, just go to docs.vansa.com and just search data residency. And I think there's a lot of information around the process, the articulated in point form around what we just discussed very quickly. Also, in terms of the way our roadmap is going to be supporting all the other regions. But that's just
really
a big important point to make there, that you look at docs.vansa.com, read up, and if you have any questions, there's a link there to ask. We're quite responsive. If you have anything, if any of our customers or potential customers are looking to take it on, just raise a ticket. We're available to talk about it. But thank you, Hala, again. Looking forward to talking to you soon.
Will do. Thank you.